Ever wondered what it's like to lose everything overnight, to be forced out of your home, your comfort zone, and thrown into an uncertain future? This is the harsh reality for millions across the globe experiencing the refugee crisis. This crisis, often overlooked, is one of the most pressing issues of our time. An issue of such magnitude that it shakes the very core of human dignity. Let's take a moment to understand what we mean when we say refugee. A refugee is someone who, due to grave threats like war, natural disasters, or persecution, has been compelled to flee their homeland. They're not just statistics or faceless entities. They're mothers, fathers, children, friends, ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances. These individuals aren't merely seeking a better life, they're fighting for their very survival. And while it's easy to distance ourselves from their plight, it's crucial to remember this is not a problem of the few, but an issue that impacts us all. You've heard the term refugee crisis, but do you know the staggering figures behind those words? Let's delve into the data that paints a picture of this global crisis. Picture this. There are currently over 25 million refugees worldwide. That's more than the entire population of Australia, forced to leave their homes and seek refuge elsewhere. Now, where are these refugees predominantly coming from? The top three countries are Syria, Afghanistan, and South Sudan. Together, they account for more than half of the total refugees worldwide. Imagine the entire population of New York City, doubled and then some. That's the number of refugees hailing from these three countries alone. But it's not just about where they're coming from, it's also about where they're going. Developing countries host a staggering 85% of the world's refugees. Countries like Turkey, Pakistan, and Uganda are at the front lines, bearing the brunt of this crisis. And here's a number that might surprise you. The average time a person spends as a refugee is a staggering 10 years. That's a decade of uncertainty, a decade of waiting for a place to call home. Now let's talk about the children, the most vulnerable among us. Half of all refugees are children, and many of them are alone, separated from their families. They face an education gap that is truly heartbreaking. Less than 2% of refugee adolescents attend high school, compared to 84% globally. That's a gap of 82%, a gap that threatens to create a lost generation of children without access to the education they deserve. So, when we talk about the refugee crisis, these are the figures we're talking about. Millions of people, from children to adults, forced to leave their homes, their lives, their dreams behind. These are not just numbers, they're human lives. Behind these statistics, there are millions of untold stories. Let's delve into a few of these narratives, shall we? Stories that will make you pause, reflect, and hopefully empathize. These tales are not just of despair, but also of grit, resilience, and the indomitable human spirit. First, there's the story of Fatima, a young mother from Syria. Amid the chaos of war, she made the harrowing journey across the Mediterranean with her two young children. Despite the terror and uncertainty, Fatima was driven by a single powerful force: hope. Hope for a safer, brighter future for her children. Today, she's working as a nurse, healing others in her new community, her spirit unbroken by the trauma she's endured. Then there's Ahmed, a teenager from Afghanistan. Forced to flee his home due to escalating violence, he spent months in a crowded refugee camp. But Ahmed refused to let his circumstances define him. He found solace in books, and now he's pursuing a scholarship in engineering, fueled by a dream to rebuild his war-torn homeland. Finally, we have the story of Amina, a resilient grandmother from South Sudan. After losing her family to conflict, she found herself responsible for her 5 grandchildren. Despite the devastating loss and hardship, Amina's strength shone through. She orchestrated an escape through war zones and across borders. And today, she's nurturing her grandchildren in a safe environment, keeping their spirits buoyant with tales of their homeland. Each story is a testament to resilience in the face of adversity, a testament to the human capacity to survive and thrive. These are not isolated cases. They are the reality of millions of refugees worldwide, each with their unique story of survival and resilience. These narratives breathe life into the cold, hard statistics we often see. They remind us that behind each number is a human being with dreams, hopes, and the will to survive. They are not mere victims of circumstance. They are survivors, warriors, and heroes in their own right. These stories remind us refugees are not just victims, but survivors. So how is the world responding to this crisis? Let's take a look at the global response to the refugee crisis. Across the globe, numerous organizations have risen to the occasion, providing much-needed aid and support. These entities offer everything from food, shelter, and medical care to legal representation and educational opportunities. But it's not just organizations stepping up. Certain countries have opened their doors wide, offering new homes to those forcibly displaced. They've shown a commendable commitment, leading by example in a world often marred by division and fear. However, the current response is not without its critics. Some argue that the efforts are not nearly enough in the face of such a vast, complex humanitarian issue. They point to gaps in the system, to countries shirking their responsibilities, to the need for a more comprehensive, unified global approach. The refugee crisis is a test of our humanity. Every one of us has a role to play in addressing this crisis. It's not just about governments or large organizations. It's about individuals like you and me. The power of one cannot be underestimated. Each small action can ripple outwards, creating a wave of change. Consider making a donation. Even a small contribution can make a world of difference. Perhaps you have time to volunteer. There are numerous organizations that would appreciate your help. Use your voice. Advocate for refugee rights. Vote for policies and politicians that prioritize humanitarian aid and solutions. Spread awareness. The more people understand the depth and breadth of this crisis, the more they are likely to help. Educate yourself and others about the realities faced by millions of refugees worldwide. Every action, no matter how small, is a step towards a better, more compassionate world. Remember, change starts with you.